Welcome to day 4 of our study of the books of major prophets. We are now going to explore the book of Ezekiel, the third major prophet. Ezekiel is a prophet and a priest who was exiled in Babylon prior to the fall of Jerusalem. So if Isaiah and Jeremiah spoke about the judgment beforehand, before it happened, before it arrived, and Jeremiah actually lived through it, now Ezekiel actually started his ministry in exile already. So when he was exiled, you will see it in chapter 1 of Ezekiel. When he was exiled, that's when he had the vision. That's when God appeared to him. So he saw the glory of the Lord. The description in Ezekiel chapter 1 is very vivid, very graphic. I would invite you to really take a look at Ezekiel chapter 1. But for us to really have a grasp of the book of Ezekiel, the entire book of Ezekiel, we should focus on the calling of the prophet. So we will take a look at Ezekiel chapter 2 to chapter 3, the calling of Ezekiel. I will read some parts of it. And he said to me, Son of man, stand on your feet and I will speak with you. And as he spoke to me, the Spirit entered into me and set me on my feet. And I heard him speaking to me. And he said to me, Son of man, I send you to the people of Israel, to nations of rebels who have rebelled against me. They and their fathers have transgressed against me to this very day. The descendants also are impudent and stubborn. I send you to them, and you shall say to them, Thus says the Lord God. And whether they hear or refuse to hear, for they are a rebellious house, they will know that a prophet has been among them. Chapter 2 to 3, it described Ezekiel's calling and what his role will be for the people of God. And to be specific, once you read this, you watch out for this word, the word watchman. So that will be the role of Ezekiel. So what is a watchman? So when he was exiled, he was told by God in chapter 3, verse 16, At the end of the 7 days, the word of the Lord came to me. Son of man, I have made you a watchman for the house of Israel. Whenever you hear a word from my mouth, you shall give them a warning from me. If I say to the wicked, you shall surely die, and you give him no warning, nor speak to warn the wicked from his wicked way, in order to save his life, that wicked person shall die for his iniquity, but his blood I will require at your hand. But if you warn the wicked, and he does not turn from his wickedness, or from his wicked way, he shall die for his iniquity, so the same result, but you will have delivered your soul. Again, his role as a watchman is this. So if you do what I tell you to do, and tell that person that he will die, then you would have done your duty, and his blood won't be in your hands. But if you spare that man by not telling him what I told you, then I will require his blood from you. It will be your fault. That is the role of the watchman, which leads us to our principle for today. Followers of Christ, as God's representatives, are tasked to become a watchman and call out unrighteousness. Remember when I told you the other day the privilege the prophets have to hear from God and to speak on behalf of God? That's why there are no more prophets, because Jesus came as the ultimate prophet, and then He gave us access to God, and He gave us the privilege and the responsibility to speak on God's behalf. Now, this is all the more seen in the book of Ezekiel. As Ezekiel was called by God to be a watchman, so believers are also called to be a watchman. So he is to become vigilant, to call out unrighteousness, and then tell people what's gonna happen. That this thing, will result into this. This thing, it will result into this. And then if people do not hear you, then it's not your fault. At the very least, you've done your job. At the very least, you've done what is necessary. Have you experienced that? I don't know who that person is, but you know that something is wrong, and you have this feeling inside you from your conscience telling you that, you have to warn this person that what he's doing will lead to his own destruction, that what he's doing will lead to something bad. It will have terrible consequences. And then, you told yourself, I don't want to get into trouble. It's going to be complicated, so I'll just leave that person. But when you do that, his blood, his or her blood, so to speak, will be on your hands. But if you follow what God is leading you to do, to tell that person, if you do this, it will lead to your destruction. Regardless if that person does not listen to you, at the very least, you obeyed God, you fulfilled your role, because you have called out the unrighteousness, the wrongdoing. And that's what we're supposed to do. But that urge ultimately comes from God, because righteousness and unrighteousness, our way to discern that is to follow God's leading. So I pray when you have that leading, you follow it as Ezekiel did.